The evening rush at the Silver Spoon was in full swing. The clinking of expensive silverware against fine china, mixed with the soft buzz of conversation from Chicago's elite. Tucked away in the upscale part of downtown, the restaurant had become the go-to spot for business deals and celebrations among the city's wealthy. Lily Zhang rushed between tables, her black uniform crisp despite the heat from the kitchen. Her feet ached in the mandatory dress shoes, and her dark hair was starting to escape from its tight bun. She'd been on shift since lunch but couldn't afford to turn down the evening hours. Not with rent due next week and her younger brother's college textbooks to pay for. Table 12 needs more water, and 14 is ready to order, whispered Thomas, another server. As they passed each other near the kitchen doors, Lily nodded, balancing 3 plates of perfectly arranged food along her arm. She delivered them with practiced ease, her smile never wavering as she named each dish. The customers barely looked up. To them, she was just another part of the restaurant's expensive decor. Behind her smile, Lily calculated tips and hours. 6 more months of double shifts, and maybe she could finally afford to fix her old keyboard. The thought made her hands flex unconsciously, her fingers stretching as if reaching for piano keys that weren't there. "Miss, another bottle of the Bordeaux," a woman at table 7 called out, not bothering to look up from her phone. "Right away," Lily replied. Turning toward the wine cellar, that's when she noticed them arriving. Even if she hadn't recognized his face from countless magazine covers and news segments, Vincent Price would have stood out. The tech billionaire moved through the room like he owned it, his confident stride and expensive suit drawing every eye. 5 people followed him. Business associates, Lily guessed, given their formal attire and attentive expressions. "Mr. Price, what an honor." The restaurant manager, Diane, appeared seemingly from nowhere, her usual stern expression replaced with a beaming smile. "Your private room is ready, of course." Lily continued her work, delivering the wine and taking orders, but kept glancing toward the hallway that led to the private dining area. The Silver Spoon staff knew what Vincent Price's visits meant. Outrageous tips if things went perfectly, but also the potential for disaster if the slightest detail was wrong. "Lily." Diane's sharp whisper caught her attention. The manager beckoned urgently from near the kitchen. "I need you to take over the private room. Raj has a family emergency." Lily's stomach tightened. "But I've never served the private room before. You're my best server and we can't afford mistakes tonight. Price's company books corporate events worth thousands. Just be perfect, okay?" Diane straightened Lily's collar and gave her a little push toward the hallway. "They're having the chef's tasting menu, so just follow the sequence. Wine pairings are already selected." Taking a deep breath, Lily pushed through the double doors into the private dining area. Unlike the main restaurant with its modern minimalist design, this room featured rich wood paneling, a crystal chandelier, and a stunning view of the city lights. A baby grand piano sat in the corner, purely decorative as far as Lily knew. No one had played it in all her years working there. "Finally," said a voice from the head of the table. Vincent Price looked up at her, his expression neutral but somehow still intimidating. In person, he looked younger than his 40-some years, though deep lines around his eyes hinted at the stress behind his success. "We were beginning to think we'd been forgotten." "My apologies for the wait, sir," Lily said, slipping into her professional tone. "I'll be taking care of you and your guests tonight. The first course will be out momentarily." For the next hour, Lily moved efficiently between the kitchen and the private room, serving each course with precision. She described the chef's creations with just enough detail, filled wine glasses before they emptied, and anticipated needs before they were voiced. Despite her nerves, she found a rhythm. Vincent barely acknowledged her presence, focused instead on what appeared to be an intense business discussion. Phrases like acquisition target and market valuation floated through the air as Lily cleared plates and brought new courses. It was during the 4th course, a palate-cleansing sorbet, when everything changed. As Lily leaned between 2 guests to place a small crystal dish, she accidentally brushed against a water glass. She caught it before it could spill, her fingers moving with quick precision. "Good reflexes," Vincent said, suddenly paying attention to her. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Those aren't just servers' hands." Lily froze, unsure how to respond. "Sir, your hands. The way you move them." He gestured toward her. "Show me your hands, please." The table fell silent as Lily hesitantly held out her hands, palms down. They were clean and well kept, despite the long hours of work. Vincent turned her right hand over, examining it with the critical eye of someone used to spotting valuable things. His thumb brushed over the slight calluses on her fingertips and the strengthened muscles at the base of her thumb. "You play piano," he said. Not a question, but a statement of fact. "I used to," Lily admitted, gently pulling her hand back. "A long time ago." "How long?" The question felt invasive, but with the entire table staring at her, Lily felt compelled to answer. "I studied for 15 years. Classical training." 15 years isn't something you just walk away from," Vincent said, leaning back in his chair. His guests looked uncomfortable, as if unsure whether to continue their conversation or remain silent. "Why did you stop?" Lily's professional smile tightened. "Life happens. I needed to work." "Did you want to become a professional musician?" "Mr. Price, I should get back to—" "Did you?" he pressed. "Yes," Lily said simply. "But dreams don't pay bills." Something flickered in Vincent's eyes. Interest, challenge, or perhaps just the thrill of discovering something unexpected. "Play something," he said, nodding toward the piano in the corner. The request, it felt more like a command, caught Lily off guard. "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm working. I'm your customer and I'm asking you to play." Vincent's tone remained casual, but there was steel beneath it. He turned to Diane, who had just entered with a bottle of wine. "Your server tells me she's a pianist. I'd like to hear her play." Diane's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "Mr. Price, while we'd love to accommodate you, Lily is needed to serve your party and others." "I'll make it worth your while," Vincent said, his eyes never leaving Lily's face. "Consider it part of the evening's entertainment." Diane looked torn between maintaining the restaurant's standards and pleasing their most influential customer. "Perhaps after your meal?" "Now would be better," Vincent said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a suggestion. He turned back to Lily. "Unless you were exaggerating your abilities?" The challenge in his voice sparked something in Lily, a flash of the old fire that had once driven her through hours of practice each day. But 3 years had passed since she'd touched a proper piano. Her apartment couldn't fit one, and her keyboard had broken last winter. Her fingers might remember, but would they obey? "It's been a while," she said quietly. "All the more reason to see if you've still got it," Vincent replied. He gestured to Diane. "I'm sure your manager can spare you for one song." Diane's smile was now fixed and brittle. "Of course. Thomas can cover for a few minutes." She gave Lily a look that clearly said, "Don't mess this up." Lily found herself walking toward the piano as if in a dream, or maybe a nightmare. The gleaming black Steinway waited, its lid propped open. She wondered if it was even in tune. As she sat on the bench, memories rushed back. Recitals, competitions, her mother's proud smile, her teachers demanding instructions. The weight of what she'd lost settled on her shoulders. The room had gone completely silent. Vincent's guests watched with curious expressions, some looking embarrassed for her, others simply waiting to be entertained. Vincent himself had turned his chair to face the piano, his expression unreadable. Lily placed her hands on the keys, feeling their cool smoothness beneath her fingertips. 3 years fell away in an instant. These hands had once been her future, her voice, her everything. Now they served food and carried trays. She took a deep breath and began to play. The first notes were tentative, a simple melody she had once known by heart. Her fingers felt stiff, awkward. Wrong notes slipped in, making her wince. But as she continued, muscle memory began to take over. This was only the beginning of what would become the most important performance of Lily's life, though she didn't know it yet. As the melody started to flow more naturally from her fingers, she was unaware of the way Vincent Price watched her, his eyes reflecting something beyond mere curiosity. Neither of them could have guessed how this forced performance would change both their lives forever. As Lily continued to play, her confidence grew with each note. The simple melody she had started with evolved into something more complex, a piece by Chopin she had once performed at her final recital. Her fingers stumbled occasionally over the more difficult passages, but the soul of the music was there. When she finished, she kept her eyes down, afraid to see the judgment on Vincent's face. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. That was... Vincent paused and Lily braced herself, rusty but interesting. Lily looked up, surprised by his assessment. Not praise exactly, but not the mockery she had feared. You haven't played in how long? He asked. 3 years, she admitted. Vincent nodded as if confirming something to himself. And before that? I was at the Chicago Institute of Music on scholarship. The words felt strange in her mouth, like speaking about someone else's life. One of Vincent's guests, a woman with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun, leaned forward. The institute is highly selective. What happened? Lily's hands dropped to her lap. This wasn't a conversation she wanted to have with strangers, especially not while on the clock. Family circumstances changed. I had to withdraw. Vincent studied her with the same intensity he probably used when evaluating startups to acquire. Play something else, he said. Something that matters to you. Diane appeared at Lily's shoulder. Mr. Price, we should really let Lily get back to her duties. The main course is ready to be served. I'm not finished, Vincent said, not bothering to look at the manager. His eyes remained fixed on Lily. One more piece. Something that shows what you can really do. Diane's smile remained frozen in place, but her eyes telegraphed a clear message to Lily. Don't argue with the man who could buy and sell this restaurant on a whim. The main course will wait, Vincent told Diane, finally glancing her way. I find I'm more interested in this unexpected entertainment. Lily felt trapped between her job obligations and this bizarre demand. The other servers would be struggling to cover her tables. Yet refusing seemed impossible with both Vincent and Diane staring at her expectantly. She turned back to the piano. What could she play that would satisfy this impromptu audition and let her return to work? Her fingers hovered over the keys as she considered and rejected several pieces. Then she remembered. There was one piece she had been working on before everything fell apart. A piece that had meant something to her. She began to play Debussy's Clair de Lune. The gentle, flowing notes filled the room. This time she closed her eyes, letting muscle memory guide her. The piece was challenging, delicate in places, powerful in others, but it had always spoken to her. As she played, Lily felt something unlock inside her chest. How long had it been since she'd allowed herself this? The pure joy of creation, of expression. She had buried this part of herself so deeply that rediscovering it now in this strange circumstance felt like finding a forgotten treasure. When the final notes faded, Lily opened her eyes. The room remained silent, but the quality of the silence had changed. Vincent's guests were looking at her differently, with respect or at least curiosity. Vincent himself had a strange expression on his face. Not quite a smile, but something that cracked through his business persona. Better, he said simply. Much better. Diane cleared her throat. Now if we could continue with your dinner. I have a proposition for you, Lily, Vincent interrupted, ignoring Diane completely. Lily's stomach tightened. Rich men and their propositions rarely ended well for women like her. Seeing her expression, Vincent actually laughed, a short, genuine sound that seemed to surprise even him. Not that kind of proposition. A challenge. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek leather wallet. From it, he extracted a business card and placed it on the piano. I host a charity gala every year for my foundation. It's in 3 weeks at the Grand Hotel downtown. 500 guests, minimum donation of $10,000 per plate. Lily stared at the card, not touching it. Okay. Play at my gala, Vincent said. It wasn't a request. If you impress me, truly impress me, I'll donate $100,000 to a music scholarship fund in your name. The room went completely still. Even Diane seemed too shocked to speak. And if I don't impress you? Lily asked, finding her voice. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then I'll never bring my business back to this restaurant. No more private parties, no more corporate events. Diane made a small, distressed sound behind her. Lily felt anger flare in her chest. That's not fair to the restaurant. To the staff. They haven't done anything. Life isn't fair, Vincent replied, his tone matter-of-fact. You said it yourself, dreams don't pay bills. I'm offering you a chance to change that. Not just for yourself, but for others like you. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. 3 weeks, 1 performance. A chance to create a scholarship that could help someone else avoid your fate. All you have to do is play something that moves me. Mr. Price, Diane interjected, her voice strained. This puts us in a difficult position. It puts her in a difficult position, Vincent corrected, gesturing toward Lily. The restaurant just has to hope she succeeds. Lily felt dizzy. The Grand Hotel, 500 wealthy guests. A performance that could either create a life-changing scholarship or cost her colleagues their livelihoods. After 3 years without touching a proper piano, I work double shifts most days, she said, trying to think practically. I don't have access to a piano to practice. Vincent waved his hand dismissively. Details. I'll have a piano delivered to your apartment tomorrow. My apartment barely fits my bed, Lily said, and I have neighbors. Then practice at the venue. I'll arrange it. Vincent stood up, buttoning his jacket. My assistant will contact you tomorrow with the details. You can give her your information before we leave. He turned to his guests. Shall we continue with dinner? I believe we were about to discuss the Morrison acquisition. Just like that, Lily was dismissed. She rose from the piano bench on shaky legs. The business card remained on the piano, embossed with Vincent's name and the logo of his tech company. Diane touched her arm. Back to work, Lily, she whispered. We'll talk about this later. In a daze, Lily returned to her duties, serving the main course to Vincent's table as if nothing extraordinary had happened. The guests resumed their business talk, though occasionally one would glance at her with newfound curiosity. As she worked, Lily's mind raced. $100,000 for a music scholarship, the chance to play again, really play, on a proper stage. But the pressure, the impossibility of preparing a performance worthy of impressing someone like Vincent in just 3 weeks, after years away from music, and the risk. If she failed, the Silver Spoon would lose its most valuable client. People might lose their jobs, all because she had been forced into this bizarre challenge. When she returned with dessert, Vincent barely looked at her. He was deep in conversation, reviewing figures on a tablet one of his associates had produced. The moment of connection through music seemed forgotten, replaced by the cold calculations of business. Yet as she placed the chocolate soufflé before him, he spoke without looking up. Choose your piece carefully, Lily. I'm not easily moved. After the group left, leaving behind an enormous tip that did little to settle Lily's nerves, she found herself back at the piano. The restaurant had closed, the other staff cleaning up and casting curious glances her way. News of Vincent's challenge had spread quickly. Diane approached, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. He's just playing games with people because he can. Lily ran her fingers lightly over the keys, not pressing down enough to make a sound. Do I really have a choice? He's serious about pulling his business if I refuse, isn't he? Diane sighed. Men like that always are. They're used to getting their way. Lily picked up Vincent's business card, turning it over in her fingers. Then I'd better start practicing. As she left the restaurant that night, stepping into the cool Chicago air, Lily felt something she hadn't experienced in years. A mixture of fear and exhilaration. The same feeling she used to get before a major performance. She had 3 weeks to remember who she had once been. 3 weeks to find the music that could move a man who seemed to have everything except a heart. What Lily didn't know was that Vincent Price had his own reasons for this challenge. Reasons that went far deeper than a whim or a game, and those reasons would change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. True to his word, Vincent's assistant called Lily early the next morning. The woman's voice was crisp and efficient, without a hint of warmth. Mr. Price has arranged for you to practice at the Grand Hotel's ballroom between 2 and 5 p.m. daily for the next 3 weeks. A security pass will be waiting for you at the staff entrance. The gala is on the 24th. Professional attire is required. Lily, still half asleep after her late shift, fumbled for a pen. Wait, I can't practice every day. I have work. Mr. Price has spoken with your manager, the assistant cut in. Your shifts have been adjusted. You'll be compensated for any lost wages. Before Lily could respond, the woman continued, A car will pick you up today at 1:30 for your first practice session. The driver will have your security pass. Is there anything else you need to know? Lily's mind raced. This was happening too fast. What exactly am I supposed to play at this gala? There was a brief pause. Mr. Price said that's entirely up to you. Choose wisely. Then the line went dead. Lily sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the notes she'd scribbled. 3 hours of practice time daily. A performance at a high society charity gala. A $100,000 scholarship at stake. Her tiny apartment suddenly felt even smaller, the walls closing in. Her brother Ken was still asleep on the fold-out couch in their shared living space, his textbooks spread across the coffee table. He had a big exam coming up. How was she supposed to tell him about this bizarre turn of events? At 1:30 sharp, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your car's waiting downstairs." Lily grabbed her bag, which contained the few pieces of sheet music she'd managed to salvage from her student days. She'd spent the morning searching through old boxes, trying to find something, anything, that might impress someone like Vincent Price. The car waiting outside was sleek and black with tinted windows. The driver, an older man with a kind face, opened the door for her. "First time working with Mr. Price?" he asked as they pulled away from the curb. Lily nodded, clutching her bag. "Don't let him intimidate you," the driver said, meeting her eyes in the rearview mirror. "He tests people. Wants to see what they're made of." "Why me, though?" Lily asked. "I'm just a waitress who used to play piano," the driver shrugged. "Mr. Price doesn't do anything without a reason. But his reasons are his own." The Grand Hotel lived up to its name. The massive building dominated the downtown skyline, its gleaming glass and stone facade speaking of old money and new power. Lily had passed it countless times but had never been inside. The driver directed her to a side entrance where a security guard checked her name against a list and handed her a badge. "Elevator to the 3rd floor, then follow the signs to the Grand Ballroom," he instructed. The hotel's interior was just as impressive as its exterior. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and tasteful art on every wall. Lily felt painfully out of place in her jeans and simple blouse, acutely aware of each scuff on her worn sneakers. Following the guard's directions, she found herself standing before a set of massive double doors. Taking a deep breath, she pushed them open. The Grand Ballroom was enormous, easily able to accommodate the 500 guests Vincent had mentioned. A stage dominated one end of the room, and in the center of it stood a gleaming black grand piano. A Steinway concert grand that probably cost more than Lily would earn in 10 years. The room was empty except for a single figure sitting in the front row. Vincent Price looked different today, dressed casually in dark jeans and a simple gray sweater. Without his business suit and entourage, he seemed almost normal. "You're punctual," he said, checking his watch. "Good. Time is the one thing money can't buy." Lily approached cautiously, still not understanding why this powerful man had taken such a strange interest in her. "Your assistant said I have 3 hours." Vincent nodded. "I've arranged for a piano tuner to be here tomorrow if you find any issues with the instrument. There's water and snacks in the green room behind the stage." He gestured toward a door. "The acoustics in this room are excellent, so you'll get an accurate sense of how you'll sound on the night." He stood up, gathering a tablet and phone from the seat beside him. "I won't stay and watch you practice. I imagine that would be distracting." "Wait," Lily said as he turned to leave. "I still don't understand why you're doing this." "Why me?" Vincent paused, studying her face. For a moment, Lily thought he might actually explain himself. Instead, he said, 3 weeks isn't much time to prepare a performance that could change your life. I suggest you use every minute with that." He walked out, leaving Lily alone in the vast, empty ballroom. For several minutes, she just stood there, overwhelmed by the situation and the opportunity before her. Then slowly, she approached the piano. Running her fingers lightly over the polished surface, she felt a mix of longing and fear. This instrument was worlds away from the tired upright she had practiced on as a student, or even the decent piano at the restaurant. Sitting down on the bench, she adjusted its height and took a deep breath. Her hands trembled slightly as she positioned them over the keys. Then she began to play, simple scales at first, reacquainting herself with the feel of a professional instrument. The sound was magnificent, each note ringing pure and true in the perfect acoustics of the ballroom. As she progressed to more complex exercises, Lily felt a familiar joy returning, the simple pleasure of creating music. For the next 3 hours, she lost herself in practice. She worked through the pieces she had brought, testing which ones still lived in her muscle memory after the long absence. Some came back easily. Others felt like trying to recall a dream from years ago, tantalizingly familiar yet just out of reach. By the time her session ended, Lily had narrowed down her options to 3 potential pieces for the gala. Each was challenging in its own way. Each showcased different aspects of her technique. But none of them felt right. None of them felt like the kind of performance that would truly move someone like Vincent Price. As she gathered her things to leave, a hotel staff member appeared at the door. "Miss Zhang? There's someone here to see you." Lily turned, half expecting to see Vincent again. Instead, an elderly man with wire-rimmed glasses and a gentle smile entered the ballroom. "Ms. Zhang, I'm Dr. Howard Chen. I was a professor at the Chicago Institute of Music when you were a student there." Lily's eyes widened in recognition. She had never taken classes with Dr. Chen, but everyone at the institute knew him. He was a legend, a pianist who had performed with orchestras around the world before turning to teaching. "Dr. Chen, what are you doing here?" The old man's eyes twinkled. "Vincent Price is an old friend. He asked me to help you prepare for the gala." Lily shook her head in disbelief. "Vincent Price is friends with my former music professor? Former head of the piano department," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "And yes, Vincent and I go back many years. He called me yesterday, told me about your situation and asked if I would provide some guidance." "But why would he do that?" Lily asked, increasingly confused by Vincent's actions. Dr. Chen studied her thoughtfully. "Vincent rarely explains himself, but I've never known him to waste his time or money on something without purpose." He gestured toward the piano. "Show me what you're working on." For the next hour, Lily played for Dr. Chen, who listened with his eyes closed, occasionally nodding or raising a finger when he heard something he liked or wanted her to repeat. When she finished, he sat silently for a long moment. "You have a gift, Ms. Zhang," he finally said. "Even after 3 years away, the music still lives in your hands. But you're playing pieces you think will impress with their technical difficulty. Isn't that what Vincent wants?" Lily asked. "To be impressed?" Dr. Chen smiled. "Vincent said he wants to be moved. Those are very different things." He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder of sheet music. "Try this. It's less technically demanding than what you've been practicing, but it requires something more important: heart." Lily accepted the folder, opening it to find a piece she had never seen before. "What is this?" "Something I composed many years ago," Dr. Chen said. "It never found a publisher, but I've always been fond of it. See what you can make of it." As Lily's sight read through the piece, she found herself drawn into its unusual harmonies and shifting emotional landscape. It wasn't flashy or overtly difficult, but it had a depth that demanded complete emotional engagement from the performer. When she finished, Dr. Chen nodded, seemingly pleased. "You understand it already. Good. We'll work on this together over the next 3 weeks. It will be ready by the gala." "But what if Vincent doesn't like it?" Lily asked. "What if it's not what he's expecting?" Dr. Chen gathered his things, preparing to leave. "Vincent is expecting authenticity, Ms. Zhang. Give him that and the rest will take care of itself." As Lily left the hotel that evening, her head spun with questions. Why had Vincent arranged for one of the most respected piano teachers in Chicago to help her? What connection did they share? And most puzzling of all, what was he really looking for in her performance? The driver was waiting to take her home. As they pulled away from the Grand Hotel, Lily looked down at Dr. Chen's composition in her lap. The title page read simply, "Remembrance, something," told her this piece was the key to understanding the strange challenge Vincent had set before her and perhaps to understanding the man himself. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of practice, work, and too little sleep. Every day, Lily spent 3 hours at the Grand Hotel, working with Dr. Chen on Remembrance. The piece had quickly gotten under her skin, its melodies following her even when she wasn't at the piano. "Again," Dr. Chen would say, his voice gentle but firm. "Feel the transition here. It's like watching clouds change shape, gradual but complete." Lily's fingers were developing calluses again, her hands remembering their old strength. Dr. Chen was a demanding teacher but also kind, bringing her tea when her concentration flagged and sharing stories from his own performing days to make her laugh when frustration threatened to overwhelm her. Through it all, Vincent remained absent. Lily occasionally caught glimpses of him in the hotel lobby or heard his name mentioned by staff, but he never came to her practice sessions. His absence only added to the mystery of his challenge. "Has he always been like this?" Lily asked Dr. Chen one day as they took a break, setting up elaborate situations and then disappearing. Dr. Chen smiled. "Vincent has always been particular about how he tests people, but there's usually method to his madness. You've known him a long time, since he was a boy." Dr. Chen said, surprising Lily. Long before he became the tech titan everyone knows today. Lily wanted to ask more, but something in Dr. Chen's expression suggested the topic was closed. Instead, she returned to the piano, diving back into the complex emotional landscape of remembrance. At the Silver Spoon, things had changed too. Word had spread about Vincent's challenge, and Lily found herself the subject of curious glances and whispered conversations. Some colleagues were supportive, offering encouragement and covering for her when practice ran long. Others were resentful, worried about their jobs if she failed. No pressure, Thomas joked one evening as they closed up. Just all our livelihoods depending on you impressing the human ice cube. Lily managed a weak smile. Thanks for the reminder. Hey, Thomas touched her arm. I'm kidding. You've got this. We heard you at the piano that night. You've got something special. 1 week before the gala, Lily arrived at the Grand Hotel to find Dr. Chen talking with a tall woman in a sharp business suit. As Lily approached, Dr. Chen waved her over. Ms. Zhang, this is Nina Parker, Vincent's event coordinator. She needs to discuss some logistics for the gala. Nina's handshake was firm and brief. Ms. Zhang, we need to finalize details for your performance. You'll be playing approximately halfway through the evening, after dinner but before the main fundraising auction. You'll have 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Lily repeated. The piece is almost 15 minutes long. Nina consulted her tablet. Mr. Price specifically allocated 10 minutes in the program. Can you cut it down? Dr. Chen frowned. The piece loses its emotional arc if shortened. Perhaps we could speak with Vincent about… Mr. Price is unavailable until the gala, Nina interrupted. He's in Tokyo closing an acquisition. You'll need to adjust the piece accordingly. After Nina left, Lily slumped onto the piano bench. How am I supposed to cut 5 minutes without ruining the whole thing? Dr. Chen sat beside her, his weathered hands resting on his knees. We don't cut. We condense. The heart of the piece remains the same, but we'll find places where we can tighten the emotional journey. For the next several days, they worked to reshape the piece, preserving its soul while fitting it into the allotted time. It was delicate work like trimming a bonsai tree. Each cut had to be made with care to maintain the overall form. 3 days before the gala, Lily received another morning call, this time from Nina. Ms. Zhang, you have a dress fitting this afternoon at Bellamy's on Michigan Avenue. The car will pick you up at noon. A dress fitting? Lily asked, confused. I was planning to wear my black dress from college recitals. Mr. Price has arranged appropriate attire for you, Nina said, her tone making it clear this wasn't up for discussion. Noon. Don't be late. Bellamy's turned out to be the kind of exclusive boutique Lily had only walked past, never entered. A saleswoman with an elegant French accent greeted her by name and led her to a private fitting room where 3 evening gowns waited. Mr. Price selected these personally, the woman explained, helping Lily into the first dress, a deep blue silk that flowed like water. He said to choose whichever one you feel most comfortable performing in. Lily stared at her reflection, barely recognizing herself in the exquisite gown. Vincent picked these out himself? The saleswoman nodded. He's a valued client. Has excellent taste. By the time Lily left with the midnight blue dress carefully boxed, her confusion about Vincent had only deepened. Why go to such lengths for a waitress he barely knew? The scholarship fund made sense as a charitable tax write-off, but the personal involvement, the dress, Dr. Chen, the practice time, none of it added up. The night before the gala, Lily couldn't sleep. She paced the small apartment, trying not to wake Ken, who had an early class the next day. The pressure was becoming unbearable. Not just the scholarship hanging in the balance, but the jobs of her colleagues, and now this inexplicable investment Vincent had made in her performance. At 3 a.m, she gave up on sleep and pulled out Dr. Chen's composition. Sitting on the edge of her bed with just a small reading lamp, she studied the notes, letting the music play in her head. The piece had become part of her now, its emotional landscape as familiar as her own heart. There was something about it, something she still couldn't quite grasp. A story hidden within the notes, perhaps. Dr. Chen had never explained what had inspired him to write it, and Lily hadn't asked. But now in the quiet hours of the night she wondered. Morning came too quickly. Lily moved through her day in a fog of exhaustion and nerves. Her final practice session with Dr. Chen was brief. "There's nothing more to teach you," he said, his eyes kind. "The music is in your hands now. Trust yourself." As Lily prepared to leave, Dr. Chen handed her an envelope. "Vincent asked me to give you this. He said to read it before tomorrow's performance." The envelope was heavy, made of expensive cream-colored paper with her name written on it in an elegant hand. Lily slipped it into her bag without opening it. "Any final advice?" she asked Dr. Chen. The old man smiled. "Remember why you play. Not for Vincent, not for the scholarship, not even for me. Play because the music needs to be heard." The night of the gala arrived with a flurry of activity. The car delivered Lily to the service entrance of the Grand Hotel, where Nina waited to usher her to a small dressing room. "You have 45 minutes, Nina said, checking her watch. "Hair and makeup are ready for you. I'll come get you when it's time." Alone in the dressing room, Lily changed into the blue gown and submitted to the ministrations of the stylist and makeup artist. When they were finished, she hardly recognized her reflection. Elegant, poised, looking nothing like the waitress who had served Vincent Price dinner 3 weeks ago. As the minutes ticked down, Lily's nerves threatened to overwhelm her. She paced the small room, trying to calm her racing heart. Then she remembered the envelope from Vincent. Perhaps it contained some explanation, some clue about what he was really looking for. With trembling fingers, she opened it and pulled out a single sheet of paper. On it was a photograph, faded and worn around the edges, of a young woman seated at a piano. She had dark hair and a serious expression, her hands poised above the keys. She looked to be in her 20s, dressed in the fashion of perhaps 30 years ago. Below the photo was a single line in the same elegant handwriting as on the envelope. She would have been 60 today. Lily stared at the photo, a cold realization washing over her. The woman's features, though softer and younger, had a familiar quality. The same strong jawline, the same intensity in the eyes. She was looking at Vincent's mother. A knock at the door startled her. Nina poked her head in. 5 minutes, Ms. Zhang. They're ready for you." As Lily followed Nina through the service corridors of the hotel, her mind raced. Remembrance, the piece Dr. Chen had given her. The strange challenge from Vincent. The date of the gala. It was all connected. She stepped into the wings of the stage, the murmur of 500 wealthy guests washing over her. Through a gap in the curtains, she could see Vincent at the center table, his expression unreadable as always. But now, holding the photo of his mother, Lily thought she understood what Vincent Price was really looking for, and why she had been chosen to provide it. The ballroom of the Grand Hotel glittered with wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables decorated with elaborate flower arrangements. Men in tuxedos and women in designer gowns sipped champagne, their jewelry catching the light as they moved. The combined net worth of the room's occupants could probably fund several small countries. Nina touched Lily's arm. "Remember, 10 minutes exactly. The auction items are time-sensitive." Lily barely heard her. Her attention was fixed on the photograph in her hand, Vincent's mother at a piano looking so much like her son. She carefully tucked it into the hidden pocket of her gown as the hotel's events manager stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special musical interlude before we begin our auction. Please welcome to the stage Ms. Lily Zhang." The polite applause that greeted her as she walked to the piano felt distant, as if coming from another room. Lily's heart pounded, but not from stage fright. She was used to performing. What made her pulse race was the realization of what this moment truly meant. She sat at the gleaming grand piano, adjusted the bench, and took a deep breath. The spotlight warmed her skin as she looked out over the sea of faces. Most were already turning back to their conversations or their phones, expecting background music rather than something that demanded attention. Then she found Vincent. He sat alone at a table near the front, watching her with that same unreadable expression. No tablet, no phone, no companions. Just a man waiting for music. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself. When she opened them again, she didn't look at the audience. She looked at the keys beneath her fingers and began to play. The opening notes of remembrance filled the ballroom. Gentle, questioning, like the first raindrops before a storm. Lily played the way Dr. Chen had taught her, allowing each phrase to breathe and speak. But now, understanding the piece's likely inspiration, she found new meaning in the music. The conversations around the room continued for the first minute or so. Then gradually they began to fade. The melody had turned more insistent, demanding attention with its haunting beauty. Heads began to turn toward the stage. Lily didn't notice. She had entered that rare state musicians sometimes find, where the boundary between performer and music dissolves. Her fingers moved with certainty, drawing out the emotion hidden in each note. Joy and sorrow, hope and regret, all intertwined in Dr. Chen's composition. As she reached the middle section, with its complex harmonies suggesting memories both sweet and painful, Lily risked a glance at Vincent. He sat perfectly still, his eyes fixed on her hands. Something in his expression had changed. The cool, calculating businessman was gone, replaced by someone vulnerable and very human. The room had fallen completely silent now. 500 people, accustomed to being the center of attention in any gathering, sat transfixed by the music flowing from Lily's fingers. Servers had stopped in their tracks, trays balanced in their hands. Even Nina, standing in the wings with her ever-present tablet, had stopped checking the time. Lily entered the final movement of the piece. Here Dr. Chen had created something extraordinary, a theme that seemed to resolve all the questions posed earlier in the composition. Not with easy answers, but with acceptance, peace after struggle, light after darkness. As the last notes faded into silence, Lily kept her hands on the keys, her head bowed. For several heartbeats, no one in the vast ballroom moved or spoke. The silence was absolute, a tribute more profound than any applause. Then someone in the back began to clap. Others joined in, the sound building until it filled the room with thunderous applause. People rose to their feet, some wiping away tears they hadn't expected to shed. But Lily wasn't looking at them. She was looking at Vincent. He remained seated, his face turned slightly away from the crowd. When he finally looked up at her, Lily saw something she never expected to see on the face of Vincent Price. Tears, unashamedly tracking down his cheeks. He gave her a small nod, just once. Then he stood and walked quickly toward a side door, leaving the applause behind. Lily rose from the piano, acknowledged the standing ovation with a bow, and then followed her instincts. Instead of exiting through the wings where Nina waited, she stepped down from the stage and followed Vincent's path to the side door. She found herself in a quiet corridor. At the end of it, Vincent stood looking out a window at the city lights below. "Your mother played piano," Lily said softly, coming to stand beside him. Vincent didn't look at her. She was a piano teacher. She taught local children in our home. I would watch from the doorway when I was supposed to be doing homework. "Did she teach you?" A faint smile crossed his face. "She tried. I had no talent for it, but I loved to hear her play." "And Dr. Chen knew her?" Vincent nodded. "They studied together at the conservatory. He wrote that piece for her funeral. I was 14 when she died. Cancer." Lily's heart ached at the matter-of-fact way he stated it, as if he'd had to explain his mother's absence so many times that the words had lost their power to hurt him. But his tears during her performance told a different story. "Today would have been her 60th birthday," Vincent continued. "I host this gala every year on her birthday. Usually I hire famous classical musicians to perform. This year I wanted something different. Why me?" Lily asked the question that had puzzled her for weeks. Vincent finally turned to look at her. 3 weeks ago, when I came to the Silver Spoon, I wasn't looking for a pianist. I wasn't thinking about my mother or her birthday. I was closing a $2 billion deal and needed somewhere private to finalize the details." He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "Then I saw your hands, the way you held the water pitcher, the slight calluses on your fingertips. You reminded me of her, not in appearance, but in essence, a musician forced by circumstances to be something else. So this whole challenge was what? A memorial to your mother?" "Partly," Vincent admitted, "but also a chance to right a wrong. My mother gave up a promising concert career to raise me after my father left. She taught piano to keep us afloat. She never complained, but I always wondered what might have been if she'd had different choices." He pulled something from his jacket pocket, a check. "The scholarship fund is real, $100,000 as promised. But there's something else." From his other pocket, he produced an envelope and handed it to Lily. Inside was another check, this one made out to her personally, for an amount that made her gasp. "What is this for?" "A second chance," Vincent said simply. Enough to cover tuition for a master's degree at any music school in the country. Plus living expenses. Your brother's education, too. Lily stared at the check, unable to process what she was seeing. Why, you don't even know me. I know enough, Vincent said. I know talent when I hear it. I know what it's like to have dreams interrupted by life's obligations. And I know what my mother would have wanted me to do with the resources I have. For the first time since Lily had met him, Vincent Price smiled, a real smile that transformed his face. Consider it an investment in the person you were meant to be. Behind them, the door opened and Nina appeared, looking concerned. Mr. Price, the auction is waiting for you. Vincent nodded. I'll be right there. As Nina retreated, he turned back to Lily. Will you accept? Lily looked down at the checks in her hands, pieces of paper that represented not just money but freedom. A return to the path she had been forced to abandon, a chance to become the musician she had once dreamed of being. Yes, she said, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her, but on one condition. Vincent raised an eyebrow, waiting. I want to play at next year's gala, too. And the year after that, as long as you host it on your mother's birthday. Vincent extended his hand and Lily took it. The handshake was firm, a contract more binding than any legal document. Deal, he said. 6 months later, Lily sat in a practice room at the Chicago Institute of Music, working on a difficult passage in a Rachmaninoff concerto. Her days were now filled with music, study, and possibility. Her brother Ken was thriving in his engineering program, free from the financial stress that had burdened them both. On the wall hung a framed photograph of a young woman at a piano, a gift from Vincent, who had become not exactly a friend but a steady presence in her life. He came to her recitals, sitting quietly in the back row and leaving without speaking to anyone. Dr. Chen had become her mentor again, guiding her renewed studies with the same gentle wisdom he had shown during those 3 weeks of preparation. And every day, Lily played Remembrance when the piece that had changed her life in ways she could never have imagined when a demanding customer had first asked to see her hands in a busy restaurant. Life rarely offers second chances, but sometimes in the most unexpected moments, music can build a bridge between lost dreams and new beginnings. For Lily Zhang and Vincent Price, that bridge had been built one note at a time, connecting past and future, memory and hope, loss and renewal, proving that the right song played with an open heart can indeed mute a room and change a life forever.